Now we're recording.
Okay, here we are recording.
Hi.
I was gonna say, so how do we start?
Welcome to the new formatting.
Yay! Look at us together.
Can we do that again because I was eating?
Well, it looked weird.
Can we have outtakes?
At the end,
We need a
at
clapboard.
the end, we need to link arms and be like, sing us a song, you're the piano man.
Oh my god.
I think this is great to start the show. That's what they like anyway, right?
Yeah,
Right?
Oh man, real life right here.
100%.
We
Okay.
could do bloopers.
Yes.
The blooper.
I'm really going to test my learning capabilities and editing. Yes!
Growing and growing.
Randy, what are we talking about?
I think we're going to talk about aliens, Missy. How do you feel about that?
We should have brought tinfoil.
Oh, that would have been perfect.
We could have made hats.
Yes. That would have been so good, you guys.
How do you feel about talking about aliens?
We can talk about it. I feel like I'm not the expert though, but
I don't think
we're
I
here to
am
learn.
either.
No, I don't think anybody is. I don't claim to be an expert. And they just like to come visit.
When did they start coming to visit you? Like, when did you realize that's what was happening?
We did an expo. I guess we did the Iowa City Psychic Expo in 20 would have been 2017, maybe 2018. And before we went, I had just kind of had my cherry popped in terms of, yeah, I know. In terms of like, this is a thing and this is happening and Pleiadians are here and you're going to have to get used to it. And I had not discussed it with my family at all. It was all done telekinetically and in meditation and things of that nature. And so then we were at an expo and there was somebody sat down in front of us and it was just, I got bombarded by Pleiadian energy, Pleiadian info. And I was like, I don't know what to say. I felt really unsure of myself. I'm sitting there in front of my family who we had not discussed it yet. And I was like, okay, well, I just need to drop this on you. And so I kind of just word vomited up on this client while my sisters stared at me like this.
What?
And I was like, I'm sorry, there it is. I'll take your $30 now. Have a nice day. But then that night I had an amazing experience. I woke up the next morning and he was like, we operate on a trade system. You did something important for me and I'm going to do something for you. And so he gave me like a 30-second experience of this is what it's going to be like. Actually, no, it was more, he said, are you ready? And I said, I'm ready. I had just woke up, so I was like, and I felt just ridiculously just giddy. Like I was happy and giggling and I was like, oh.
So tell us about the Pleiadians, because like, I didn't know about them until a couple of years ago, so I don't know how many people watching would know.
So the Pleiadians are closest to us. They are closest to being, there are other humanoid races from what I understand. And I do not claim to be, this is just from our experience and what we have run into. So Pleiadians are most like us and they're kind of in charge of Ascension because they're the most recent planet to have gone through this transition from 3 to 5T. So they, it sort of works like a graduation system. Like the farther out you get kind of the old school people who did Ascension in the old school ways, and the Pleiadians just went through it. So they have the new ways of going through Ascension. And so they got to be in charge of this whole thing. And they look most similar to humans, and they're a little less threatening than some of the older races.
So they're like our version of they're the millennials, we're the Gen Zers.
Yes. That's exactly it.
and they come through the Pleiadian constellation when they travel here, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And they're here. They have been here for some time. We just are now getting sensitive to it, and they're just now, like within the last, I would say, it started actually in '87. And then after that, it increased in frequency. And then 2012 was another big marker.
So do you think there's Pleiadians just walking around amongst us that we don't
Absolutely.
know?
That was my
So
next
do you
question.
think they're like the crystal children, or the indigo children?
I think that they retain a piece of that, a
Okay.
fractal of that, but do I think they embody it? No, I think they're here for more government walk-in sort of things where if we have people in government, then the Pleiadians will just, they call that a walk-in, and they will just sort of take over, and that soul just taps out and the new soul taps in.
Explain that
Interesting.
more.
I've heard of walk-ins before, but I didn't realize that
It was
that could happen.
It's actually quite frequent. From what they are teaching us in channeling is that it is very frequent. So even within the versions of you that are happening, you're tapping in and tapping out based on what you might be facing in your life. So if you have a particularly difficult conversation to be had, I may tap in my 2D version, which is Rondo, who looks like, yeah,
Rondo. It's like Randy,
Rondo.
but Rondo.
Yeah, but he looks like that rock
Oh, it's a
guy
he.
on
rock
the rock. He looks like a rock guy.
Like
Yeah.
the never-ending story?
Like Marvel, like the Marvel rock
Yeah.
guy. I don't know his name. I don't watch those.
Oh, I know who you're talking
Oh,
about.
He was on the Fabulous Four, the Fantastic Five, or some shit. What?
One of
I
them
think I
things.
remember the one you're talking about.
He was in the one with the green guy with the Hulk and sexy Scarlett Johansson
The
and
Thing. There's one.
oh, they did call him the Thing.
Is that it?
He
It's also
did.
Marvel.
And he
and
didn't
DC have
like
the same
it.
character that's the
So
same,
he
but
looks
not.
like that, but he doesn't mess around during a conversation. He just says what needs to be said, and then he'd be like, "All right, I'm out."
Can you feel that happening, like that transition?
I can
sometimes?
now. If I wasn't aware of it before, I didn't know. I would have just called it a mood swing.
Yeah.
Oh.
And generally, it would take place during meditation or a sleep cycle. So if your husband wakes up in a completely different mood than he went to bed in, just saying.
Wow. And that's an alien, or is that a version of you?
That is a version of me.
Okay, but it can be similar with
But
the
happens to be an
aliens.
alien. A walk-in technically would be a walk-in and stay.
So you said that's for government?
They do take. It is happening for the benefit of humans to
Okay.
help.
Not government as we know it, not like our White House and
Well,
officials like that.
To
but
be
like
to be
yes.
to be
All
in
right.
positions of look, that made her eat.
I dropped it too.
to make more benevolent decisions for the good of humanity versus maybe service to self-oriented or politically oriented. It's more for service to others.
Okay. Well, you think that's what the position we're in now. Anyway, we need that oomph and on a big scale. So of course they're going to choose those.
Yeah.
People know, is that something that soul is it? It's obviously what we're doing. What consensual on a soul level, correct?
Yeah.
So we don't have to freak everybody out.
It's not just gonna happen.
It's not like a unwanted possession by any means. On a soul level, they've agreed to be.
Right. 100%.
I feel like there's a couple of people I want to call out right now and just tell them to calm down. You know who
Sorry.
you are.
Yeah. Sorry.
We all know who you are.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've on the Gaia YouTube channel, I feel like they've talked about like a race that was, I'm not gonna explain this very well, a race that still lives somewhere on the planet in Earth, like a hidden society kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the Pleiadians or is that something different?
Those are the Anshar, from what I understand, and that's just one race that lives in Inner Earth. We might know them as Inner Earth aliens, but the Anshars have come forward during our channelings, and they are future us living in the inner, like living in the Inner Earth.
So they're good guys?
They are the good guys. Yeah. They are the good guys. Most, to be honest, most of them are the good guys. We did get, it really depends on your perception. We did really, for a long time, get held down by a grid system that was put in place over the planet by a negative race of E.T.s.
Who are they? Anunnaki?
The Draco Anunnaki reptilian race. There's several hybrids of that. but
Yeah.
they're not, there's good and there's bad, and it was a survival thing. They did it to survive. It's no different than what would you do for your kids to survive kind of thing.
I pissed off an Anunnaki.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
there you
tell
go.
us.
Tell us more. I want to hear all about that.
No, so I like
Let me get my drink.
during the shaman year, I started feeling like I was getting pneumonia, and I got super pissed off because it was the second year in a row, and I thought, oh my gosh, last year when I had pneumonia, I thought I was gonna die. So I booked a session with somebody down at Illuminations, and we did like a journey, and she did her visioning, and she said, I don't know. She's like, I can't stay in this place very long because it's really dark and gross. But she said, you pissed this man off. It was like Egyptian times. And she's like, you really weren't anybody of consequence. And these Anunnaki were there helping the Egyptians build the pyramids. Well, you heard that they were going to use the pyramids for nefarious things. And you turned them in and you got them banned. You got them exiled. And he's like been after you ever since. She's like, so he's not incarnated right now, but what he has done is he had sent a hellcat, and it is just attached to your
that's
throat.
What that was.
Yeah,
I remember you talking about the Hellcat.
and that was like why I wasn't able to use my voice very well and speak up and all of those things. She's like, he can't really break through that, but he's just there holding on for dear life. And so that Anunnaki guy, that bastard shows up every once in a while still. Yeah, what do you think about that? We've talked about this.
You didn't ever give me any specific details. You always just left it at very surface. But I'm not surprised at all. None of that surprises me.
Yeah.
One of the things that people do get surprised about is, like, we always talk about past lives and having, and it's not really past lives, they're parallel lives, and having cords and attachments from other past traumas and things, but it's not necessarily, from what we are finding, it's not necessarily that way at all. You can have things entangled is a better word. I prefer that word because it is more present tense, and it's more about this is happening right now, and this Anunnaki guy is pissy with you because you messed with him, and now I'm gonna mess with you back, because that's very them. Where we are trying to be at a place where, like, you mess with me, bless you, and then I'm gonna move on.
Yep.
So we're expanded beyond that Anunnaki mentality, which is very survival driven.
And so that was like the second time I had gone in, and we did even more work about this, and I don't remember why, but we just came up with, you know what, he's just gonna have to walk with me, and I'm just gonna have to be cool with him walking with me and not let him bother me.
Yeah.
So I don't give him really any attention unless I talk about him this way.
Yeah. Do you feel it viscerally when you talk about him that way, or not really?
Anymore.
Yeah. Because the fear is what they capitalize on. So they grab a hold of that vibration, and that makes them stronger. It's no different than ghosts and paranormal shit.
Honestly, no different than humans.
Right.
Yeah. I was saying people are like, oh my God, aliens this and this and that and this race and that race. I'm like, do you know what people say? Probably they say about these freaking humans?
Right. Right.
Come on now.
They're probably grabbing their popcorn and going, did you see that?
You're not
Trump's rallies in Oklahoma today.
You're not the nicest of beings either in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. But there's some really good people, and there's some really good, I think, in all of it. I've interacted with some reptilian Draco in a very positive way. Like, I was like, I'm not correlating what people are saying to my experience and why and what's wrong with me. You know, like, and so it's just I don't know really it was the point of it, but other than to have a different perspective maybe.
Yeah.
And say, hey, that we're not all bad.
There's good and bad of all races, from what I understand, and you're gonna have. It's no different than us. They're just getting by, just like us. They just have better toys. They can take over a planet where we can. Yeah. I mean, think about how much bigger that is. Right. I'm gonna place this here, and we'll take over these humans.
I think my first memory of any kind of alien interaction, and I didn't even think about it at first as it being that, but it was a dream. And I was in line, like I was going to a ticket booth or something. And every time a person would get up to the ticket booth, there was a man up there. He was like sorting everybody, kind of like Harry Potter in the sorting hat, And so I got up there and he's like, oh yeah, you, and he's looking at his list. He's like, yeah, you're a blue centurion or something like that. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means, but I sat down with other people that apparently were like me. I still don't really know what that means. But,
I've never heard. Centurions are like more mythological.
I was gonna say that reminds me of Doctor Who, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what that was all about, but it was
Huh.
very like, here's your people, here's your people, here's your people.
I've had a sorting dream too.
Have you?
I rode a magic school bus down a whirlwind. Yeah.
sure that was a dream this
And then
Yeah, right.
there was an elevator and then a
Need to stop
council.
that too.
Yeah. Yes, I do. And they sang. Everything was sung. There was no one spoke anything. It was all singing.
Wow.
But it was a sorting dream. They were like, you're going to be okay. You're going to cheat death once, but you're going to be okay. All right, now move along.
Wow. Just drop that on you.
Yeah,
right. I was like, okay.
I'd be like, huh?
Huh?
I blacked out for a second. Can you repeat that?
No, there's no second chances in those things.
Yeah.
Oh no, I want my sorting dream. God.
Set your intentions before you go to
Okay,
bed.
okay.
Oh my goodness.
So Jen, do you want to tell us about your positive experience with the Draco
I mean,
reptilian?
it was.
We're not supposed to eat this
We
shit.
apparently
right
can't
now.
have it.
It was really brief. Actually, it was. What was it? Meditation, journey, dream, something of some way, or something specific. I'm trying to even remember what my intention was or what was happening. But basically, there was a gift. I was gifted something by some other. I'm trying to remember. It was like it was so bright. It was a light source. So I don't know if it was strictly light energy or if there was a being that was just so magnificently bright. And I was gifted this little dragony thing, lizard, alien, don't know. But it was like, here is your gift that will help you understand this. I don't. So
What color?
You're like the mother of
Is it like-
dragons.
yeah, I
Oh
know.
my
That's what I was
God.
thinking.
She's freaking Khaleesi.
Yeah, right.
in here.
But it's really interesting. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting because some of Nick's guides are dragons, and I know how that interaction, what brief he shares with me on that, he's very tight-lipped on some of that. So I'm like, how? Okay, did that cloud? Did that make something happen in my brain, or is this for him? Or is this like, I don't know. I've always admired them, but never got to work with them. So I thought it was a baby dragon, like mythical, not mythical dragon. And I find that was an alien, a little baby race. So I really 100% don't know, like, did I adopt this little soul? Did I, like, but it was really interesting because it was not a baby, but it was old enough to, I don't want to say communicate because I can't remember a lot of the messaging, honestly, but it knew it knew what it was. It knew the backstory. It knew the history and its heritage.
Nice.
But God, it was so surreal. I'm like, and then I was like, then researching after, I'm like, this can't be. And then you're getting down the rabbit hole of aliens and races. And you're like, okay, so there's a lot of reptilian type options. So what is this? And I'm trying to, like, all the renditions of the different aliens that people will put out there. I'm like, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. And I think I'm like, shit, this is a fucking, like, this is one of the bad guys. And it's not. It just was like, so I think on some level, they're also
Absolutely.
healing past, which, you know, we don't think of that on an E.T. They're supposed to just be who they are, right?
Right.
They're supposed to just, you're good, you're bad, you help us, you don't help us, you control the universe, you don't, whatever. But they're allowed to shift and change. So the information we had, 10 years ago, whoever was starting to talk about this alien stuff, isn't as solid as it once was.
Right.
So I guess that's, long story short, that's what I'm coming to.
I think that people what I break out is, I was like, even God can expand. Like, if you want to you want to get biblical, there was New Testament and there's Old Testament. Like,
Right.
God expanded as well. So you gotta give some room for all these other races to
And
expand.
they're generational, so they're not responsible always for, and I think that's part of it too, like having a younger thing, like they're not responsible for the things that their older generations have done. It was a totally new.
Where do you think the fear comes in, though?
For us?
Yeah, like why are people frightened of aliens?
It's unknown.
I think Hollywood doesn't really help.
Getting probed.
Getting probed.
I love that T-shirt. Good user, we're doing butt stuff.
Having your planet invaded and taken over, all of that. I think that's where a lot of it comes from. But, yeah.
Well, why are people scared of ghosts?
Right.
Yeah. People are scared of, a lot of different things that really just are not aware of.
Well, and
They're
then
different than they are.
And the media has really been in the pocket of then the people that want to control the information. It all sort of snowballs into this giant conspiracy theory sort of thing, but there has been some control of information to us, and you can lose yourself in that, but you also can gain valuable perspective by opening up your mind and knowing that, they made a movie about this. I could make some crazy movies out of some stuff that I dream of.
How did your family react after you dropped that alien bomb on them later?
They didn't say very much. And then when we would start to get together, then Keith, my Pleiadian aspect, an aspect of me who is 5D, started to kind of come forward a little more often, and I think made contact and it stopped being so scary when he was so normal, Yeah. He's a mechanic. He's a mechanic in 5D.
Nice.
And he works because he wants to.
Jesus Lord.
Not because he has to. But he's mechanicking ships instead of cars,
Oh,
yeah.
Work because I want to.
It's because he wants to.
That's another aspect, though, to think of. Like, there are aspects you think of yourself on parallel lives and all this past life stuff. There's an aspect of you that's most likely, it is pretty rare to have completely earth-bound soul, like earth-originating souls or earth. But that's your only aspect. Or whatever. So we're all stardust, right?
Right. Especially those that are incarnated now. We have, if you're here now, if you're here for ascension, you're here because you're an old soul with lots of experience. And when people use that term and they throw it around, they're not kidding. Old soul literally means you've done ascension in all of these planets and all of these races and these experiences. You've done it before, so it's not foreign to you, just the toddlers on the block.
So I'm glad you brought up the expansion of God along with this topic, because did you guys, I didn't read the article, but did you see how NASA just released that they discovered was it additional civilizations or races or something? I didn't read it. Oh God, I'll have to look at it. It was like a suggested thing on my Google local app. And anyway, so the podcast that I listened to, they were talking about that article, and they brought up the fact that in the Bible it says, I'm going to get a little tiny bit religious. It says, my Father's kingdom has many mansions. And so, the one podcaster was like, okay, so I know you're thinking that that's like bougie mansions on like a fairway somewhere, but we're probably talking multiple galaxies and multiple planets.
Yeah.
And so the many mansions would be consistent of multiple races. And, the other podcaster's like, but I believe in Jesus. And it's like, why can't you have both? Right. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure as open-minded as Jesus was, he probably would have believed in aliens too and known about them. So it's interesting how people are like, you can't have one without the other. But me, I'm like, I'm the person with the square taco. Why not both?
Right. Me too. I have a square taco as well, Lena.
I knew you were going to take it.
Yeah, I did too.
You left it for the picking. Oh, shit. You can have both. And I think that is probably that's the age we're moving into, is that we are honoring we are honoring religion, but we are also not going to control with religion. I think that's where that's all headed. Like big picture.
There's probably so many little nuggets in that damn book that just alludes to
Yes.
so many aliens and different all other aspects of the magical woo that
Yes.
we weren't able to correlate with until now.
Mm-hmm.
She's not wrong.
Area 51 right in that damn book.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
What are you thinking, Randy? I see you kind of
I
turn in
don't
a
know.
little bit. When I mentioned about you having multiple, maybe parallel lives in the alien, your brain kind of went someplace. Anything on that?
No, I know last summer I messaged Missy one day and I was like, what the fuck is this? Remember that?
Oh yeah, I can't forget. Because I was like, yes, come to the dark side.
All summer it was like I could not connect to my guides like I normally could. And it was like staticky, right? And then one night one of my guides came in and he's like, it's fine. It's the aliens. They're here looking for someone.
I remember that.
Yeah. They're here looking for somebody. It's fine. Just give them a couple more days. And then I'll be back. And then I think I had a dream like a week after this or something. And I was like I was up in stirrups, like I was going to get an exam, right?
Wow.
Get in, loser.
Getting an exam. But it was like an x-ray machine came down over my stomach and they scanned me. And there was a woman over here, female, felt feminine over here, and scanned me. And then it came back up and they said, oh, what was it? Oh, congratulations, or we're so happy you have super regenerating cells or something like that. And I'm like, awesome.
Context, please.
And so then I stood up and she came to hug me and I'm like, whoa, we don't know each other. That was the part that freaked me out the most, I think.
Was the hug?
No.
The hug freaked you out the most. Not the stirrups, it was the hug.
Definitely not the stirrups, but what did freak me out the most was there was the person behind me. The woman in front of me wanted to hug me because they wanted to put a tracker in me. That freaked me out the most. I'm like, what the fuck,
Listen,
Misty?
trackers were a thing. They're not a thing anymore, but unless it's necessary.
No, maybe it's necessary.
I mean, it could be, and I'm willing to bet it was Cassiopean, not Centaurian.
Oh,
So,
really?
Look at this.
Nice.
Yes.
I knew you'd figure it out. But yeah, so for me, I was really freaked out at that moment because I'm like, what the fuck? Why? I did not sign up for this. And Missy's like, oh yeah, you did. Yes, you did.
Wow.
You know, but for me, the way I got over it was like, okay, I just have to think of them as ancients. If I just think of these as ancients, that just reframes it in a way that's so much more acceptable for me. Like, I don't call them aliens anymore. You know, and if I do say aliens, I'm thinking ancients.
Why do you think? Is it completely? Is media? Do you think the bulk responsible for that, like movies, and just the unknown and as secret? Because they did really do, from what I understand, and I don't know 100%, but JFK was going to divulge this stuff. You know, in the 60s, and they kind of put the kibosh on it for a few more years. So I think that our parents might have been raised that way too, like hush, hush, secret, you know.
There's a stigma with it. And, you know, when you talk about aliens, people do think, oh, where's your cyber, where's your
tinfoil hat,
right? And, but for me, like, with all the Native American beliefs that I hold, it's like, oh, the ancients, they were a very important group. You know, they were the originals, and they're like the Sioux, Lakota Sioux. That's who they communicate with, is the ancients. So for me, it just is kind of in line with my belief system. And if I say ancients, people I'm talking to won't think I'm.
Right, that you
Why
lost
are you
your.
pointing at me?
Right.
I don't know. I wasn't like necessarily pointing at you. I was like other people over there.
Other people.
Those guys.
You know, the ones all around
Sorry,
us.
Lena.
I think some of it is also personal experience. Like this is a story from my grandfather, so pardon me telling it like second or third hand. But basically, my grandparents.
Story time with Lena.
Yeah, exactly. Gather round, children. So, my grandparents lived in literally the poorest county in Iowa. It's down like an hour south of Ottumwa, Oskaloosa area in Albia, and the city was Mystic. So the house, they lived in her parents' house. No, her grandparents' house. It's an old house, and basically, long story short, I wish my mom was here to tell this because she's the one who actually had the conversation with him. But Grandpa, he was freaked out by aliens because one night, I guess, they had these crazy ass lights going by, and it wasn't like an airplane sound, it wasn't loud or a jet or anything like that, and it was at night. And it went over the house slowly, and then it went out past the field, like there was a little bit of woods. Really? Out beyond, yeah. And I don't think he got out of the house and went and investigated because I think he was too scared. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's personal experiences like that also that we harbor that contributes to that, in addition to the media.
Well, not only that we harbor, but like this was your grandfather's experience,
yeah.
right? And then that's gonna get
exactly
passed down to you.
And so and I don't think he didn't even tell the story to my mom because he was too scared to talk about it. My grandmother, his wife, told my mom about it because she tried to ask him one time and he just kept watching the TV and ignored her.
Wow.
Oh my God. And that man was in World War II.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. It makes me think a little bit too, like the correlation. People often talk about Kundalini awakenings and how just jarring and scary that can be and is for a lot of people. I think it's, if you think about on the parallel with an alien experience or something like that, while it's probably for our highest and best, our souls doing all of that work, we said, yes, okay, let's have this experience or this, whatever it might be. Same thing with the Kundalini awakening, It's just, so if we maybe think of it on like the same but different avenues, it might be a little bit more normal. Yeah, what the hell? I didn't sign up for this, or what the hell? This is not what I expected my spiritual awakening to be. Like it's sometimes it can be a shit show to be be awake and like that. So, and I think because it's an outside force that just says, hey, you're doing this, when it feels like that, it can be.
I think more and more people too are going to start tapping into that piece of like your Akash. If it's on your radar, it's on your radar. And I'm going to, like, if I step into your space, I'm going to pick up whatever it is they bring forward with the knowledge of aliens are a thing. And if you had an experience as an alien that was significant in some capacity, here's a little tidbit. Aliens they don't hold trauma the way we do. So you will not have a traumatic experience as an alien or higher dimensional extraterrestrial.
They hold grudges though, apparently.
Well, certain unexpanded aliens do, but that's because they see your light and
he's just jealous.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Free will. Just try to get ahead in some way.
Survival. They're trying to survive, and that should be better for you.
Just laugh at them.
I do.
Yeah. It's a great way to stand in your power, though.
Take away his.
100%.
Yeah. Huh.
Where are we at with time? Do you have any kind of start? I don't know how to tell on here so far away, but it's in the memento.
We'll just eat popcorn.
Yeah, she can edit all this out.
Yep.
They think they can. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess we'll just go until we feel like the conversation's over, which could be 4 hours long in one. No, but
so
I mean,
Missy, on when you guys do your Monday messages
Mhm.
and you do the message for the collective,
Mm-hmm.
who comes into those normally, or is it just always different?
It is always different.
Do you have like a cadre of people, or
So-
do you meet new people that way during the Monday
Mhm.
messages too?
We do actually.
Okay.
Look at this little grape has a smiley face. It's happy and this little smiley
It's an
face.
alien,
It
y'all.
was so cute. Sorry. That's my toddler brain. This is why they like me, because I can't stay focused. I'm just like, so it really depends on what's happening in the collective. Honestly, if they're busy or not. We call it, do they have a meeting? They're in a meeting right now.
Nice.
So we can always tell when it's maybe not our familiar buddy, our buddy who runs the system and runs the show, who is our go-to guy, so to speak. And we can tell when it's different energy. But you especially see that when you sit down with a client, and a client is sitting in front of you, and they bring different energy with you, and then that's nice to intuit what they are sitting with, and then what you might be sitting with, and then gather information that way. But the collective messages are generally whoever pops by and has the strongest message for the people that are watching.
And they're a different, I don't even know, a different race. Like
It can be. I mean, sometimes
Pleiadians,
a lot of times it's Pleiadians. One week we had Cassiopeans. One week we had the divine, which is just an angelic realm of some sort. We just call them the divine.
And now I know, like, when you guys are doing the board and your hand is on it,
Mhm.
you're already getting messages.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the energy feel different with each one of those? Or does it?
Oh, I don't know that I can put that into words. It's like me asking you, how do you journey? I don't really know. They come through and you can just feel the difference. It's like learning different guides. Jim Bob feels like this and Nancy feels like this.
Yeah.
And you get used to them. And then so Pleiadian energy versus Arcturian energy feels different. We work a lot with the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, the Anshar. We have a gal in our class who is what did they call her? Oh, they said she has some clout in the Anshar race, and so they like to hang about her house. And so when she's talking about things that happen in her life, they're just like, yep, it's the Anshar. This is what they're doing.
Oh.
Now, is it too something a little bit like distance-wise, if you can think of it on a linear, like, so we talk about these core good aliens that are commonly thought of. A lot of people, if you're somewhat open to the word, you've probably heard the word Pleiadian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it because, well, not only did they do it recently, but they're timeline-wise, I'm trying to find the right words. Timeline-wise, closer. Like I'm thinking like the universe, and almost like mapping it. They're close here. So the ones that there may be some way out here that are very similar. They just aren't reaching us because they don't want to travel that whole distance.
Yes, 100%. And the Pleiades they're closer to us proximity-wise.
That's proximity, maybe.
And density. Our densities are very similar. So.
So let me ask you this, and you might not know the answer to this question. I had a guide, I referred to him as a guide, who literally looks like he stepped out of Lord of the Rings. Like he's tall, long blonde hair, pointy ears, the whole gamut. And I flat out asked him, I'm like, are you Pleiadian? He said no. So do you know if there's an alien race that resembles anything elven, or?
Well, the elven race is a thing also.
That is real.
Yeah,
okay.
It is real.
All of our mystical stories have some sort of reality in them, right?
Reality.
I mean,
Yeah.
how the hell do we have that in our heads anyway?
Oh, I have a whole theory about how authors tap into shit all the time.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
They're just channeling.
Right, exactly.
Moses channeling.
Yeah.
That's just, I know I get real excited about that too, where I'm like, you guys were just in your allowance, where you're in alignment with your soul and in alignment with source, where you were able to channel. So.
Well, Matt and I, my husband and I, have talked about that a lot recently in the last month or so. talking about some of those really old science fiction writers from like the 30s and 40s and how they, talk about pulling out a device out of their pocket. And,
Right.
It's like, oh my God, they were like just getting messages. And he's like, they had to have been.
Yeah.
Like their imaginations, I'm sure, were wonderful too, but my God.
But that had to be inspired from somewhere.
Right.
The imagination is just a frequency to open to that channel.
Whenever we teach someone like how to connect in the beginning, I always encourage them to use their imagination because it's a bridge. It's a bridge to get the physical brain on board. Like, yes, this is what we're doing, so come on.
Yeah.
We get so hung up on, I want true information.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Right.
on some level, somewhere in there, it is true. Like you said, like the Lord of the Rings, there's truth underneath all of
That always
some of that.
reminds me of the quote from Harry Potter, like, just because it's happening in your head doesn't mean that it's not happening. No.
Crazy.
I don't remember that one.
Really?
No, I believe you. I'm like trying to read. He's like,
I think that was in the Dumbledore talks to Harry about that. It's in the 8th movie, but obviously the 7th book.
Okay.
So it's
Obviously.
yeah.
I knew that.
I'm not a
I knew
Potterhead. I
that.
don't know any of this.
I'm not either.
I read the
but
first
I
book
do
and was
love
done.
it.
Fair enough. But yeah, Joe Rowling talking about how she first met Harry when she was on a train ride. That's when it clicked in my brain. I was like, she tapped into that. Like, what if that whole world exists elsewhere? And she just picked up on it, and then so that she started writing it out.
Right?
Can I tap into some world?
Right?
Make me some money?
When I did my hypnosis session with Ellen Noble, anybody, she's awesome. But we were talking and she said, you and this person have traveled all of these lifetimes together. She's like, you were in magic school together. And I'm like, what is that?
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and she's like, we were probably in magic school too, together.
Dude.
Yeah. So there was a magic school somewhere. Right?
Well, that's what in ancient Egypt and stuff, they brought that all to the same too. Ancient mystery schools, it's the same thing as,
Yes.
Nice.
and it's part of what we keep repeating. I know.
In a good way?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, if you're, go that way if you need to do anything.
Not in a physical way.
Okay.
There's a way about that.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. If anybody has questions on aliens or this topic, make sure you comment. We haven't been doing this is just different interaction with you all, so we will still get back to it. We're gonna do a roundup here at some point here when we go live next. So make sure you hit those put those comments in so that we can double back on some of this. Maybe something that popped in your brain that you want to know more about or whatever. We will re-hit that. Clarifications, experiences, whatever you might have.
Did you get probed?
That should be on the thumbnail.
Have you been probed?
Well,
There was this one time at band camp.
Oh, God.
I didn't know he was an alien though. Oh my God.
Just kidding.
Also, I would say if you're looking for like any resources or anything like that, we can try to point you in the right direction. I know Gaia is a great resource. I don't know about if you guys have any books or anything like that that you would refer people to.
No, I say make an appointment and let's find out what's in your couch.
There you
I
go.
would love to do that right now. I wish we could do that.
I know,
Like,
me too.
I know. Maybe we need to pause this and we need to get a board set up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that violates AG.
It violates our contract.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
Anyway, awesome.
don't be scared, bitches.
Don't be
Don't be
scared.
scared.
They're just guides. Most of them.
Yeah, they are most of them are guys. But the classic gray alien that you see like represented in movies, those are not you. You're right. They're not the good ones. They're here to mess around. But still,
It's probably no different than a shadow person or something like that.
yeah,
So.
no
Yeah.
different. Well, different, but yeah.
But I mean, same kind of
Kind of
poking,
feel.
Yeah.
draining.
Yes.
Mm.
Training is an excellent word.
So we just need to send past the where they don't have access,
Yeah.
which we are doing.
That's
What
right.
did you just say?
It's
They
happening.
need to ascend past that so they don't have
Okay.
access.
Oh.
Okay.
They won't have access anymore. It's done.
As of October 2019.
No, that's transgenerational
That was something
trauma.
That was something
Oh.
else.
But they don't have access to our grid system anymore.
There
Nice.
you go.
So
I'm holding up a pillar of that, I think.
yes, you are, girl. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Represent.
I don't know what it means. I guess I'm doing okay though. I haven't been fired yet.
They can't fire you.
They can?
No.
Oh, they
She
can't?
said they can't.
I wish.
I wouldn't.
I don't know. I can
Fire
rewrite
me.
my soul contracts right now, can't I? I'm in that very special period of time.
No.
I wouldn't do that.
I
I
know.
signed up.
No.
I signed up for this.
Once you expand so far, there's no going back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't close the door now.
Yeah, it's like trying to go back after you jumped off the airplane.
Mm.
You can't rewind it. It's done. Might as well pull the chute
Remember-
and enjoy the ride.
I showed up to a meeting late. You know what I'm talking
Which
about?
meeting?
You know what I'm talking about? Because I, again, messaged her one morning. I'm like, what the fuck? Where were you?
The meetings are a thing.
Yeah, I showed up and I like walked into a meeting late, and whoever was moderating it kind of looked at me like,
Really?
like
That
you
does
only
surprise me
you
though.
only had to show up on time. Like, well, I don't know where I was.
That is hilarious.
Oh, Curtis, he was boring as hell too. I don't do well with meetings.
They're important.
No matter what galaxy.
Can you give me the Cliff Notes version when they're over?
Send me the email.
Summarize it real
Why are we
quick.
on a Zoom call right now? There's COVID.
Lord. Great time to finish.
I made myself really.
Oh, okay, well,
please.
Okay. I don't know. I might keep this. Straight up. Bye, guys.
Can we say goodbye?
Okay, bye. Sure. I don't know. This is our first one. Okay.